Welcome to another virtual virtuoso of the Cheyenne Symphony Orchestra. I'm William Intriligator, music director and conductor, and joining me today is our wonderful principal French horn, Ben Shafer. Welcome, Ben.
Hello, it's great to be here.
It's great to be with you, and it's great to see you. It's been hard to be away from my friends in the orchestra, and every time I get to do one of these interviews on Virtual Virtuoso, it's like, oh my gosh, how have you been? It's great to see you. So
Absolutely.
how have you been, by the way? Everything holding up okay?
Yeah, it's been pretty good. I actually just finished my master's degree at CU Boulder. So now I'm officially a master of music. Nothing else to learn, ever. Just kidding.
Yeah, the title Master of Music is so pretentious in a way, but congratulations, that's a big deal. That's so
Thank you
amazing.
very much. Yeah,
One,
it was a lot of work. I actually was in a summer class that I just finished up, and so yeah.
so classes continued even over the last few months. Wow.
Yeah, so this was a summer class that I needed. It was the last requirement I had, and yeah, it just ended, but it was all online, of course. So.
Yeah, right. Okay. Wow. Well, so tell us a little bit about your background, where you're from originally, and when you started the French horn.
Yeah, so I'm originally from Cary, North Carolina, which is just a suburb outside of Raleigh.
Mhm.
And growing up, I started band in middle school. And I actually started on the flute, not the French horn.
That's
Yeah. So my sister actually, she's 3 years older than me, and she began playing on flute as well. And when she went into high school, my family decided to get her a new flute and give me the old one.
right. Oh, so that's how you started.
Yeah, and then my band director actually just gave me a French horn one day and was like, "Have fun." And so I started learning it, and I started really falling in love with it by the time I got into high school. Um, and one of the biggest inspirations for me to like really continue with music was the competition aspect of it.
Oh, really?
Throughout high school, actually, my marching band was really competitive, and we had some really fantastic directors and clinicians that came in, and they really showed me how like music can be such a competitive force. But I kind of evolved from that once I entered college. It was less about the competition and more about growing to love the instrument and love the music and be able to like make my voice be heard through playing.
Oh, that's beautiful. Where did you do your undergrad?
I did it at UNC Charlotte.
Oh, yeah. That's
Yeah,
great.
back in North Carolina.
Awesome. And now a lot of horn players, I think, have come to Boulder to study with your teacher. Is that right?
Oh,
Tell us about
absolutely.
that.
Yeah, so in my master's program, I had the pleasure to study with Mike Thornton, who's the principal horn of the Colorado Symphony and the Chamber Orchestra of Los Angeles. And he is one of the most incredible pedagogues that I've ever worked with, that I think exists. He thinks
Really?
about, absolutely. He thinks about music in such a unique way, and his entire goal for his students is to make them reach their goals. So, like the very first lesson I had with him, even before, or I had decided to come here even before I had a lesson with him.
Oh,
uh, so it was a little bit of a crapshoot, but I think it worked out well. Within the first lesson, I told him that I wanted to win an orchestral job and I wanted to play, and here I am playing with the Cheyenne Symphony.
well, that's great. And we're so lucky to have you. I wonder, for somebody who's such a great pedagogue, he also has such a busy performance schedule. And how does he manage to play in the Colorado Symphony, the LA Chamber Orchestra, and be on the faculty essentially almost like full time at Boulder?
Oh yeah, he's definitely a busy guy. This past year he was actually on sabbatical, so he had the rest of the Colorado Symphony horn section come in to give lessons and master classes.
Wow.
So I had the pleasure to study with basically all of the horns with the Colorado Symphony and get a lot of insight from like the different positions of playing. Like
Yeah.
not just the principal horn, but the third horn and the fourth horn and the second horn. They all have like little tidbits of information that can make you just a better musician and a better technician on the horn.
Oh, absolutely. To get those different kinds of viewpoints and stuff, I bet that really helps. That's so cool. Well, let's start talking a little bit about the first piece you're going to play for us today. And like so many of the musicians in the Cheyenne Symphony featured on this, as well as our recent guest Michael Ludwig, you've chose some music by Johann Sebastian Bach. Tell us about it.
Absolutely. So Bach is one of those composers that, at least for me, I never really truly understood how amazing he was until I played his music. Um, when I started working on this second cello suite, which I'll be performing, I really didn't understand what all the hype was about. And that might just be because I'm a younger musician, but I haven't really devolved a lot of time into learning Bach. And obviously, he didn't write any works for horn, so we kind of had to steal them from the cellos and
Well,
violin.
he did write some really great horn parts. And in fact, there are some wonderful horn solos in his orchestral suite number one. You got to check that out. They're like, you probably have played them actually on auditions and or prepared them for auditions. But like you said, there's no solo horn repertoire by Bach.
Right. And we also have the pleasure of having a pretty big role in Brandenburg Concertos.
Oh, of course. Yeah, right. The Brandenburgs too. Yeah.
Yeah, but when I decided to do this piece, it as I was working on it, I kind of felt like this connection to Bach as a person, and so much about what he writes come through when you can perform it, and it's almost like having a conversation with him, where he gives a little bit of input, and then you kind of make it your own, and it's like all this back and forth to try to make it one beautiful piece of music. And so the challenge really came when I was trying to do that. But I've fallen in love with this piece. It's the only cello suite that he wrote that's in a minor key. So it's a little bit sad.
Yeah.
But I like to think about it as being inherently sad. I like to think about it as overcoming that sadness. And that's actually really helped me throughout this time as well. Like not being able to perform has really it's been pretty tough, as I'm sure you understand.
Yeah.
Um,
Absolutely. Yeah. In fact, during this time for me, I'm playing Bach almost every day to help kind of deal with the separation anxiety from performing with my orchestra. So I play on the piano every day.
oh.
Yeah, and it really helps. It really helps. So obviously the Bach cello suites have been performed by a number of different instruments other than cello. I mean, famously viola, string bass, but also I've heard them done on trumpet. This will be the first time I get to hear it on French horn. Tell us about how it is to transcribe that. I mean, I know it's probably not your own personal transcription, but like there are parts in the Bach where you have to play like chords and stuff. And obviously in the Bach, there's no place to breathe that's like specifically written in. There are ends of phrases, but it's almost like to add in the breaths for a French horn player must be challenging, huh?
That's definitely one of the biggest challenges. It's such a long piece that never really has, like you said, any breaks. And so it's kind of my job to make sure that whenever I do take a breath, it doesn't sound like a breath or a break. It sounds like an intentional slight, maybe I slow down a little bit before I take a breath, so it feels a little bit more organic. But just flowing through the entire piece is definitely a challenge. And I was definitely thinking that the breathing is going to be one of the hardest parts about this as
Yeah.
well.
Uh-huh. So tell us again, which movement is this from which specific suite?
So this is going to be the first movement, the prelude from Bach's second cello suite.
Perfect. All right. Thank you, Ben. Enjoy. Bravo, Ben. Our audiences can see why you are our principal horn. It's such a thrill whenever you're playing in the orchestra. And, we've had a chance to feature you and the rest of the horn section in big ways in the last few years, especially with Strauss tone poems and such. And I love your sound. I love your musicality. And we're so grateful that you're in the Cheyenne Symphony Orchestra.
Thank you so much for your kind words.
Yeah. So great. And now tell us a little bit about the next piece that you've chosen for us.
Yeah, so this next piece that I'll be performing is Astor Piazzolla's Tango Etude Number 3, which was originally written for violin. And this is a really difficult piece. There's just a lot of notes. It's very fast, and it's not typically something that you would hear a French horn play.
Right.
Exactly. And so the first time I actually heard this piece was on an album by Radek Boberak, who is, if you aren't familiar, he's one of the, I would say probably one of the top horn players to ever live. And beyond even just playing a horn, he's a world-class conductor and soloist. But he formed an ensemble, the Boberak Ensemble, and he came out with an album and he included this piece on it, and I heard it and my mind was just blown. Like, I
Oh.
never heard a French horn sound like that. um, and so it was just something that I decided. I found an arrangement of it, and I just decided to play it. I recently did a live stream solo recital, and I performed actually all three of the pieces that I'll be performing today on that recital, and it was just such a fun piece to work up and to perform, and it's just I hope you guys have a good time with it.
Oh, I bet. I mean, I love the music of Piazzolla. I wish we could perform it more. Some of our audiences may remember we did one of his Four Seasons movements about, I guess, 2 years ago, maybe now, as part of like a group of four seasons where only one of them was Vivaldi. And his music, I mean, he's Argentinian, of course, and most of his music is inspired by the tango, of course. And his music is just so refreshing and colorful. I can't wait to hear it on French horn. It's going to be so great.
Should be a lot of fun.
That's great. Awesome. And so when you did that live recital, was that something that you had to do for your master's?
Actually, no. So unfortunately, I was planning to do a full recital, like with piano accompaniment and everything, for my degree, but because of the virus and everything, unfortunately, it got canceled. And I kind of feel like I got gypped a little bit without having to do a recital.
Yeah.
So actually, I decided to do this recital on my birthday, which was just a couple weeks ago. And I decided to do it as like a fundraiser for the American Civil Liberties Union. And I raised about $500 for that
Oh,
organization.
great. Wow. I wish I had gotten an email link. You got to include me on these things.
I thought we were friends on Facebook.
Oh, yeah. See, that's the thing. I don't really follow a ton on Facebook because my orchestras are on Facebook and everything. Wow. Well, that is so cool that you did that.
Thank
That
you.
is
Yeah, it was a lot of fun to put together, and it was all unaccompanied hornworks. So I kind of expanded my repertoire from what I would normally do by
yeah,
doing a couple of arrangements like the Bach and the Piazzolla. So
that's great. All right. Well, so this is what did you say it was called? Tango or?
Tango Etude Number 3.
That's it. Tango Etude Number 3, originally for violin by Astor Piazzolla. Enjoy. Bravo again, Ben. Wow.
Thank you.
I love Piazzolla's music, and hearing it on the French horn is a special treat. So tell us about the last piece you've selected, because it's also by maybe lesser known composer of a different kind of nationality. Tell us about it.
Yeah, so the final piece on my program is going to be Happy Blues by Zsolt Nagy. And he's a Hungarian composer who honestly does not have a lot of music, but he's written a couple pieces for solo horn, including this one, as well as there's a really fun arrangement he did of like the Pink Panther theme for
Oh,
French horn. Yeah, so I need to get my hands on that one, and next time we do one of these, I'll play that.
that would be great. Yeah. So he's a
Um,
living composer. Do you know if he's still in Hungary, or where
to
he's
be honest,
based? Or something?
there's really not a ton of information about him. I know he is a horn player, and I know he's written a couple pieces, but that's generally it.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting that there are still some composers now, even with the internet and everything, where you look up stuff online and it's like, well, it came up short. There's just not too much out there.
Exactly.
How would you describe this piece? Tell us a little bit about your thoughts on the music.
Yeah, so this piece is very different than what you would expect from like our solo French horn piece. It utilizes a lot of extended techniques that you probably would never hear in an orchestra, such as multiphonics, which, if you don't know, is where you have to sing a note and play a note at the same time to create two different pitches.
Yeah.
Um, it's also very jazzy, which typically, when you think of jazz, you don't think of French horn. That's not the first instrument that comes to mind. But
Right.
it really shows off a lot of
Yeah.
different colors of what the French horn can be. And when I first heard this piece, it was at a horn workshop, and right after I heard it, I immediately went to go buy this piece, and I've performed it a couple times, including at my senior recital for my undergrad, and for the solo recital that I did a couple weeks ago. And every single time I play it, it's just it's the most fun I ever have when playing horn because it just
Oh,
everything in the wheelhouse,
uh
and it's a good time for both myself to play it and hopefully you guys to enjoy it.
oh, absolutely. Were there any other extended techniques you want to describe or explain before we get into it?
Absolutely. So there's a couple of glissandos, which is where the horn, you basically go through a bunch of different notes at once, like either like a sweep up or a sweep down. There is, you get to shake, which is where you like physically shake the horn on your mouth to
Wow.
create kind of semi vibrato. It's very different than vibrato.
Yeah, of course.
There's also parts where you have to play with a stopped horn, which is a technique that evolved from natural horn, way,
Sure.
way back.
Where you
um,
put your hand in the bell and it changes the sound and pitch. Yeah. Hmm.
mhm. And then there's also a bunch of lip trills, which are probably some of the hardest things that you can do on horn. You essentially have to play two notes at once where it just goes back and forth between them really, really quickly.
And
Uh,
controlling that with just your lips, not your fingers at all. That's got to be so hard. Yeah.
exactly. It definitely takes a lot of work to get up there. But it's a really fun piece that uses every technique that I think you can on horn.
That's so great. In case we have some French horn players watching this, I'm wondering if you could tell us a little bit about your instrument and what make and model it is, or if there's anything special about it that or something distinctive, or how you chose it, or anything like that.
Sure. So this is a Briz horn, and it's made by two horn makers, Ken Pope and Ian Balu, who they decided that they needed. There wasn't really a market for really high quality horns for a really good price.
Hmm.
A lot of times when you get a custom horn, it costs upwards of $10,000, and as a former college student, that is not anywhere close to the money that I have. So he was trying to get more up and coming musicians to play these instruments, which started about $4,000, which is a lot more reasonable. And it's a fantastic instrument. I came from playing a Yamaha and a Kahn, which are two of the more popular brands, and this one it feels like the top of the line instruments for about a third of the price.
Amazing. So, yeah, I really enjoyed your sound in the Cheyenne Symphony Orchestra. I feel like it has different colors. It has, maybe I would say, more on the bright end than what I'm used to compared to some of the other. And I thought maybe I thought that was just you. I wasn't sure what style or make and model of horn you have. And one of the challenges in a orchestra setting, isn't it, is to have the four French horns blend. And sometimes, in full-time orchestras, they'll all specifically play the same brand. So, I mean, has this been the horn that you've been playing in the Cheyenne Symphony the last couple seasons?
So actually, when I played the audition for the Cheyenne Symphony, it was on a different horn.
Oh,
So
wow.
hopefully,
Okay.
hopefully you guys like this one as much as I do.
Oh, yeah. Because, I mean, if you've been playing that since your audition in the orchestra, I'm loving it. It sounds great. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, and at the end of the day, it's really not about the horn though. The horn definitely like has a little bit of factor on the sound, but I play with such an amazing section that no matter what I do, I know that they're gonna have my back. And at least from where I'm sitting, I think we blend really well together, even though all four of us play very different horns and very different styles, but we come together to create one cohesive unit, which I think is the most important thing.
Absolutely. For our listeners who aren't as familiar with the French horn has a unique place in the orchestra because it really bridges the style and the sound worlds between the woodwinds and the brass. And sometimes they're part of a woodwind quintet, even in chamber music. And sometimes the way they've been scored by composers is with the woodwinds rather than the brass. And then there are times where they're like the guts of the brass section as well. And one of the neat things that I found with French horn players is that there is this wonderful feeling like your section has your back and you're part of a team. I think that's wonderful that you said that earlier because and it's not always that way in other sections or the way other personalities and other instruments might be, but in a French horn section it is so important that you have that mentality, isn't it?
I completely agree. I think like people probably know that French horn is known as one of the most difficult instruments.
Yeah. Mhm.
And the way I think about it is the instrument's hard enough itself. Why should we make it harder on ourselves by not trying to get along with each other?
I like that. That's great. Fantastic. All right. Well, I can't wait to hear this really cool bluesy, jazzy piece with all these extended, as we call, horn techniques. Tell us one more time the composer's name and the name of the piece.
Yeah, so this piece is Happy Blues by Zsolt Nagy.
Fantastic. Enjoy. Bravo again, Ben. Like I said before, we're very fortunate to have someone of your amazing talent in the Cheyenne Symphony Orchestra. And I know you probably heard stories about your predecessor who was there in that principal horn seat for probably 35 years, David Hay. And you have done such a fantastic job continuing the tradition of excellence that he had. And we are so pleased with you in the Cheyenne Symphony Orchestra. And you're so talented, like I told you offline when we were not recording. I'm sure you're probably going to get a bigger orchestra job, but we want to hold on to you with the Cheyenne Symphony as long as we
Well, I'm happy where I am right now.
can.
So,
Great. And you made your home in Boulder, and you don't foresee leaving there very soon or anything?
no, I've the happiest I've been living in Boulder. It's kind of hard not to when you're so close to the mountains and just nature in general. So
Absolutely. I mean, that is
yeah, I just
a
moved here out
beautiful
here.
area. Yeah. I mean, it's gorgeous there, and there's so much to do for outdoors activities, especially. It's amazing, and for the arts. And well, this has been such a pleasure having this conversation, getting to know you and your musicianship better has been a treat for me, and I'm sure all of our watchers, listeners on Virtual Virtuoso. Is there anything else you'd like to share with us all?
No, I think you covered a lot. I just want to say thank you again for doing this. It's been a pleasure to see you, and it's always a pleasure to play in the Cheyenne Symphony, and I can't wait till we can get back to it.
Thank you, Ben. I'm not sure if that cut out a little bit. I kind of heard parts of what you said there. It was one of those connection glitches, but maybe
No.
it'll probably be fine on the recording. So.
Okay, well, I can say it again if you want.
Well, thank you so much, Ben. This has been great. And for everybody watching, continue to stay safe. I know a lot of people are going out without masks now. And when you can, please stay safe, stay indoors, wear a mask, wash your hands, continue to take those precautions. And, you know, on behalf of Ben and all of us at the Cheyenne Symphony Orchestra, we honestly can't wait to perform for you all again and to be together again and see each other again and perform. And, you know, we have plans for our performances in August, which we're taking necessary steps to make in a very safe and social distancing kind of way, and for the rest of our season as well. So until then, I'm William Intriligator, and on behalf of Ben Shafer and I, thanks for tuning in. Bye, Ben.
Bye. Thank you again.
Thank you. It was great to see you, and bravo. Take care.